It started with a sound that didn't belong on that quiet suburban street. The deep rumble of Harley engines cut through the afternoon air like thunder rolling across a calm sky. 4 bikers rode in, their black vests bearing the fiery insignia of the Hells Angels. Their shadows stretched long on the warm pavement, and the street grew silent. Neighbors peeked from behind curtains, mothers pulled their children inside, even the wind seemed to hesitate. But then, amid the rumble and steel, a smaller voice rose soft, trembling and heartbreakingly desperate. "Sir, will you buy my bike?" The bikers slowed. Engines idled low. At the edge of the sidewalk stood a little girl, no more than 6. Her hair was light and messy, her dress too neat for how worn her shoes looked. A pink bicycle with a white basket stood beside her, and in her hands she clutched a cardboard sign that said, "For sale." The smallest biker, or maybe the kindest, turned off his engine and climbed off. The others followed, heavy boots thudding on the pavement. He knelt before the child, the chrome of his bike glinting behind her like a mirror to a cruel world. Her name was Mira, and her eyes held something that shouldn't exist in a child's face: exhaustion. Behind her, under a tree in the distance, sat a woman wrapped in a blanket, pale and weak. Her mother. "Please, sir," Mira said softly. "Mommy hasn't eaten in 2 days." The biker's throat tightened. His name was Ryder, though his brothers called him Wolf. But the nickname never really fit. Beneath the tattoos and leather was a man who had lost more than most could imagine: a father who'd walked away, a son who never came home, a heart that had forgotten how to feel. But kneeling on that hot pavement, something inside him began to stir again. He asked her why she was selling her bike. Between halting breaths and tiny tears, Mira told him everything. Her mother, Clara, once worked for a catering company owned by a powerful man named Mr. Hensley. He smiled on magazine covers, donated to charity when the cameras were on, and preached about generosity he didn't understand. When the company downsized, Clara was one of the first to go. She begged him for a few more weeks of work so she could feed her daughter. But Hensley didn't care. He said she was replaceable. Since then, Clara had been too weak to find new work. The bills piled up, the fridge went empty, and pride kept her from asking for help. So Mira took her only toy, her pink bicycle, and decided to sell it for food. Ryder felt something snap inside him, like the last thread holding back years of buried anger. His brothers Stank, Viper, and Mason saw that look before. They didn't need words. It wasn't pity they felt. It was justice. Ryder reached into his vest, pulled out his wallet, and pressed a thick wad of cash into the little girl's trembling hand. "Keep the bike, kiddo," he murmured. But that wasn't the end. He couldn't just ride away knowing what had been done to that woman and her child. He told Mira to stay with her mother and promised he'd be back soon. Then the engines roared to life again. The Hells Angels weren't saints. But they had their own kind of justice. They didn't bring guns or violence that day. They brought truth. They rode straight to the tall glass building that bore Mr. Hensley's name, a monument to arrogance gleaming in the sun. The 4 men walked in like thunder after lightning, their boots echoing against marble floors. The receptionist froze as they passed. Ryder spotted Hensley through the glass wall of his office, the kind of man with a gold watch, a fake smile, and hands that had never done an honest day's work. "What is this?" Hensley scoffed as they entered. Ryder didn't shout. He simply placed the cardboard sign on the CEO's pristine desk, the same one Mira had held. "That," Ryder said quietly, "is what your greed cost." For the first time, the polished businessman looked shaken. Ryder told him about the little girl, the starving mother under the tree, and the pink bicycle worth more in love than all his cars combined. Hensley tried to defend himself, mumbling about layoffs and business, but his excuses died when he met their eyes. Not anger, not threat, just the weight of truth. Ryder leaned close and said, "You don't get to buy forgiveness, but you do get a chance to do what's right." By sunset, the town began to talk. The same CEO who once fired a struggling mother had anonymously donated food to families in need, paid off hospital bills, and rehired the workers he had let go. No one knew what changed his heart. Only 4 bikers and a little girl with a pink bike did. When Ryder and his brothers returned to that tree, Mira ran to them with joy shining in her eyes. Her mother stood now, still weak but smiling for the first time in weeks. They shared bread that night, the bikers, the woman, and the little girl who had tried to sell her bike, Not for toys, but for love. The sunset painted everything gold, the chrome of the bikes, the grass beneath them, and the folded cardboard sign resting in Mira's lap. For a brief moment, the world didn't seem so broken anymore. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that kindness can still change everything, please take a moment to like, share, comment, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Because sometimes one simple act of courage is all it takes to make the world believe in kindness again.